Is this caboose or to another country?
To another country.
Okay.
I realize that you have to take a test to get back in. But the US of A is the most stringent.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be within 3 days, and it can't be at the airport.
Yeah.
But they would get that back. They got for the airlines, that 3-day kind of thing. They got that back within, I don't know, 5 hours from the time I was tested to the time we had the green light to.
You know, when my daughter came back from England, they had, it was 18 or something like that. But anyway, this is. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was perfect out there.
It's been very
I
nice.
just read a paper. How big.
My daughter just went to New York and she said it was very hot and humid.
Not bad. I think the
Right.
hurricane ring.
That virus is like.
Yeah, she was checking that.
It was interesting, 'cause that was an early-
Flew out on last week,
One reason I
Monday.
There was a.
Just missed it, but,
Along the,
yeah.
the swim pool, the ice has been full, nice fun. I
My
haven't
turn,
been back
Counselor
ever
Tilton
since it
was
started,
there
because
on the road.
I know what it's like in a
On the road.
environment, you know.
She's listening
Well, the
in.
other thing that this article.
She's phoning in.
I'm here, guys.
Hello.
Many, many hours.
Hello.
Not just, you know.
I hope you don't cut out like I did that one
Yeah,
time.
she might. I told her that's okay.
At least accepted.
Was that Jessica?
Yes.
Hi, Jessica.
Via Zoom.
Hi, guys.
It works.
Yes. Call this council work session to order, Wednesday, September 1st, time is 1 p.m. Please allow me to read the mantra. 1, I am a city councilor and advocate of quality and effective services. I will do what I can to promote cost-sensitive and professional services to the city residents and visitors. I will do what I can to promote a safe environment for businesses and families. 2, it is my responsibility to contribute to a stabilized environment for the city. A opponent of uproar and dissension and conflict. I believe in cooperation. 3, I believe in routine. The greatest gift I can give the city residents is to provide services that are predictable. 4, every comment I make, every vote I cast will be motivated by the question, what is good for the city residents and visitors? Number 5, what I want for my family is what I want for all patrons of the city. Number 6, I will champion the city. I will compliment and reinforce often. I will suggest and recommend when necessary. 7, I will support majority position of the council. I may not agree, but once the vote is taken, I'm with the others. 8, I will never come to a council meeting having made a promise to an individual or a group. 9, at all times, I will remember that the city official whose purpose is to serve and represent others and to act on their behalf. Number 10, courtesy is a rule. I will not break that rule. 11, a council meeting is a business meeting. It is not entertainment, it's not a social hour, it is not question and answer session. It is a business meeting. 10 and 12, I am busy. Council members and the mayor, I guess that's redundant, mayor are busy. City staff and administrator are busy. Everyone is busy. At this meeting, I will do what I have to do. I'll do it as fast as possible and respect the time of others. Okay, now we'll open it up for visitor comments. Is there any visitors on Zoom? Okay, is Kathy Antonetti coming in via Zoom?
She was, I believe, supposed to be here, but I haven't heard from her.
Okay, we'll carry that one down if she shows up. I know Tina is here, so let's go ahead. And can you poke your head out the door and ask her?
I think she just went to the bathroom.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we'll wait on her. So we'll just take a breather here.
Yeah, breather, I like
Breather as
that.
best we can.
You're having a better breather than I am right now.
Masks.
We could have a piece of information that's important for the mayor.
Exactly.
Yeah, how's the fishing going?
The fishing is good. Fishing report is, there's lots of fish in the river right now. I've caught about 7 fish in the last 10 days.
And how many are legal?
Oh,
good.
Yes, and there's lots of coho this year. So those are silver salmon. So you have to be careful when you're out there fishing to make sure you know the difference between a coho and a Chinook, because if you can keep either or on Chinook, native or hatchery, but you can only keep hatchery on the coho. But there's 1.7 million run of coho this year. The system. Big run.
Aren't they labeled? Do they have a little special tag on them?
I wish. So, this is the biggest run since the 80s for coho salmon. Yeah. Hey, Tina, we're gonna go ahead and call you on up because Kathy Incinetti is not here.
Okay,
If you're,
1 second.
okay,
Follow that steelhead. Are down,
yeah,
way down. That's interesting, how one species
yeah.
seems to be thriving and another species.
Some of the steelhead problems is
Just wheel them in just wheel them.
the dams, of course, and then the sea lions kind of,
Get more
yeah,
downstream.
yeah. Believe it or not, not to blame the sea lions, but they were protected for so long, their population is grew.
There were sea lion noises up here on the river down there.
Hello.
Oh,
So Matt is going to connect us to discovercolumbiacounty.com. And then, did you have questions? Did you just want to know like an overview of what's going on?
Yes, a Halloween town overview.
Okay, so from Discover Columbia County, you can see for the new counselors that you can click on any of the other cities in the county and it goes to their homepage. But when you scroll down to the very first thing, you can click on Spirit of Halloween Town tickets and information. And from this site, you will notice if you scroll down just a little bit, the homepage tells you all of the rules and regulations as far as parking, as far as any restrictions for pet owners or anything that the governor has told us that we need to follow.
Let's see, we want people to wear masks.
Mhm.
City, help protect each other, yeah.
Yeah, and then that's just basic information. And then if you go up and click on attractions, you will see we have weekday attractions and what is included in that. And then we also have all of the attractions that happen on the weekends listed that goes with the general admission tickets. And you'll see that there's all kinds of things like.
When is the weekend of the parade?
Okay, so we go down. So this is the general things that are included with the tickets, and then you'll see October 2nd, the mayor's election. So those are all the special activities that happen on specific dates. So people can see, what else they're getting on the weekend that they bought a ticket for. And if they scroll down a little further, we'll get to see all of the stage performances that happen on specific dates and who they are by also scrolling down. And it kind of just goes over who's coming. So I want to bring your attention to the K9 Kings because they are coming the last 2 weekends of September. And I just put up a ticket for locals only, that anyone with a residency at 97051, either through their driver's license, which shows that, or something that, a bill even that they get, will be able to use the code 97051, and instead of paying $35 a ticket, it will be $20 a ticket, include everything the $35 ticket does. So that's a huge, huge savings. It's more than $25 off of last year's ticket price for adults. So the Canine Kings are super cool, and I think there's 3 shows each day on Saturday and Sunday. And then all the stage performances, the Haunted Hotel, Whispers in the Woods, the Pumpkin King, the museum, everything is included in those tickets for people that live in 97051. They can only get the ticket online so that we know how many people are coming. And they would need to, once they get to the gate, they just need to show us like a driver's license or something that tells us that that person does live here. And that person is the one that needs to buy the ticket so that we can cross-identify them.
So is it still, it's still a free event, but for the special is not? Is that,
What do you mean it's still a free event?
it's still where you?
Like you can walk in through town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if I want to go to the haunted house, just the haunted house, I could pay at the site to go into the haunted house.
Only the haunted house.
Yes.
Everything else is bundled together.
So admission is to the attractions. The plaza is open.
Yeah.
Plaza's open, but the performances will be down at the One stage, and that will be.
Yeah, you have to have tickets for all of the extra activities like the performances, the museum, the alien experience, the haunted house, the Whispers in the Woods, the Walking with Pumpkins on Sand Island. Those are all have prices attached to them, but the only one that you can buy independently is the haunted house.
So like on the second, we'll still be doing the original parade.
Yep,
And then.
and all these other activities.
Every Saturday will still be a lighting of the pumpkin too.
Just on October 2nd.
Just on October 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going back to how we used to do it before we were in lockdown. Yeah, and and of course, that's open to anybody
Yeah.
right now, unless we get some major change from the governor.
Yeah, like last year we had a 250 restriction.
Exactly,
And it was
yeah. And new attractions this year, if Matt, you want to scroll up, are okay, so new attractions this year are, we made significant changes inside the haunted house. It's like really very cool. And the alien museum, the same thing, as well as, so everything has kind of gotten a freshen up and a facelift or a major addition to it this year. And also the new additions are Whispers in the Woods, which are up on Knob Hill with faces that are carved and hung from the trees with sounds that kind of go along with it. The Walking with Pumpkins on Sand Island is new, and that's a curated art piece integration and a search for Sasquatches. And the Journey to the Pumpkin King is also a new thing this year. And so we have lots of fun new things that are happening. We have a giant pumpkin totem that is coming that will be placed on the waterfront and with fire around it. It's very cool. And you know, we have some new additions to the plaza too. So there's lots of things for people to come and see. And the feedback that we've gotten online for the ticket price at $35 is that it's super affordable for compared to everything else that you do with your kids for a full day. Does anyone have questions?
Is there one price for everyone? Is there, you mentioned zip code. Anyone
That's just-
outside the zip code, is it additional?
It's 35. If you're outside of 97051, just on the last 2 weekends of September, it's still 35. 97501 is just our special price for people that live in town.
Or last 2 weekends of October.
the last 2 weekends of September.
Any other questions for updates?
Debrief on 13 Nights, and I really enjoyed the way you ended the series with Curtis Salgado, and individuals that were there really seemed to enjoy that performance. This is kind of a rock and blues town, and
Yeah.
I know that he's well received, and it's really good to end a series with someone like that. I just thought it was magic.
Yeah.
Good work.
Thank you. So 13 Nights on the River, I would say we've probably had our best year since the city took it over for weather and crowd consistency. We had just like really strong crowds on every night except one, which wasn't a shocker because I think the fair was going on at the same time. But it was still super busy. The vendors all came out great, and the parking lot was totally utilized. We had, probably 100 cars that were parking
People
on the
park
riverfront.
Right too, they parked.
And
right.
we
I
just
was
left
amazed.
them.
I was amazed that they parked right. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, so it was like, just leave them to their own, to their own parking skills. I guess we can always make an announcement if someone got blocked, but the other thing that happened, which was really good and had a lot of kids participating in it, was actually the vaccination station. And because they had games to play for people that did get vaccinated, so that they could kind of monitor them for the next 30 minutes. And the kids, they invited them to play in that area with cornhole and disc golf and everything else. And I think that was really a nice thing for them to do, to make that available too. From the standpoint of having people in the audience that could take a drink and go sit with their family, we had really little to zero issues with anybody. So I think that worked out really well too.
Question on the first Saturday.
Yeah.
What do you have events wise down here other than just is there any special, like no parade, nothing like that, right?
October 2nd is the first Saturday, and that's the day of the big parade.
Well, the first one is actually September 18th.
Yeah.
Because there was also a trolley, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a trolley service from the chamber building that they're hiring
Yeah.
to buzz around town.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to be able to have them be able to come down through Old Town. They gotta stop right now at Wild Current.
Yeah, because the police don't want anybody on the street. There's just too many pedestrians on the street. And, but they can stop at the Wild Current, and then they can also go right through that parking lot. So it's a very easy situation for people to get on and off. I have, my reservations is that we're taking local people into Halloween to go to bars and restaurants that are gonna be packed. So it's kind of like just, interfacing is like gonna be interesting because it's gonna be super busy. So it's like they'll get dropped off, but they're gonna wait in line. You know what I mean? It's
So trolley, I thought I was driving for the trolley. Qantas, I
Really?
believe, is volunteered to do that. Now, as on a trolley schedule, is that like 10 hours on the weekends?
I have no idea. I mean, I just know they have
The
a trolley.
chamber, yeah, you're right, that's the chamber. I was just asking because the chamber was not upset about it, but they just mentioned that they would like to come through if they could, but they made plans to stop the Wild Current.
Yeah.
I mean, with the amount of people that come into town, and plus Main Street is where we check people in. So the whole road is blocked, just like it always is as far as through traffic goes. Cause that's where we check people in with their tickets, they get their, their cards for activities, punch, they get, their new card that we are implementing this year, which I'll give you a demonstration once it's live. But it's like putting a vehicle in there is just like, the police are, they're always like, no, we don't want you to allow anybody. And I know why, because it's just like people are crossing the street, there's kids, there's just a lot going on the street itself with like foot traffic. Yeah. So,
So, but I'm not gonna get stopped by Ticketmaster because I'm walking down through the barricade.
not right now.
Because if I'm not going into down there or the haunted house or.
No, it doesn't
I'm on
matter,
Mount-
you're just walking
I'm
on
on
the
Mount
street.
Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But just like before, when you come down Cowlitz, it'll be blocked, that street will be blocked, that's where we kind of check people in, welcome them. And even that is a little bit, honestly, to me, dangerous, because there's so many people walking on the sidewalks, hopefully. And, they kind of have this attitude of, oh, I'm here for a festival and I can just walk anywhere I want, and they're walking in the middle of the street when they come by, the gate with the, where the signage cat is. And they just walk through that gate, and a lot of them don't even go on the sidewalk, they're just walking in the middle of the street.
The delicate balance is the downtown, restaurants have really started to step up, and this is where you really mainly eat out now. It just is.
Yeah, for sure. So they can still come down Cowlitz.
Yes, that we do some type of, get with Crystal, and we do some type of outreach, that we still, there's another route to come, for locals to get down to the restaurant.
Yeah,
And most don't mind walking from the parking lot too, but, I just don't want them getting stopped and saying, where's your ticket?
oh no, that doesn't happen until they
I'm
come.
just trying to- Yeah. just-
And there's no tickets for parking. I mean,
No.
this is the thing, the tickets that we sell, the general admission tickets, include parking. That
Yeah.
takes all the people off of the side streets and everything else. And if you don't wanna buy a general admission ticket, but you want to come down here and see the vendors or what have you, they can park in that lot for free, and if they spend $15 with any vendor, the parking is free. You pay when you leave if you just come down and do nothing. So it's kind of like city center parking where you get your little voucher when you come in, and then you have a store stamp it. When you go out, you don't have to pay for parking. So that's what we've done. We've made parking $15 if you,
Well, if I give
Do
you,
not spend-
what if I give you a receipt from the dockside?
it doesn't work. It's just for vendors. Yeah, it's just for vendors.
Well, what about parking down here?
Well, we're not blocking the parking. They're still gonna have the Cowlitz parking.
Okay.
Yeah, and First Street.
We kind of are blocking quite a few parking spots right here.
Well, I think that,
If you come down here, if you come down here on any night,
yeah,
you'll see they're all backed up all the way up to roughly the realtor right here, sometimes in front of
Yeah.
where the store is.
yeah,
Yes, so that's quite a few parking spots.
yeah.
It's something we need to think about.
Well, I think if you talk to the restaurants on the weekends,
I think real easy, simple thing. If they just show you a valid driver's license. 555 North 10th. You know they're not from out of town, you know they're not a guest, they should be able to park down there. Just-
well, that kind of defeats the purpose of the.
I know, and I get that. I get
Yeah.
that, but also I know there's gonna be some people that really are craving their roof sandwich or their Plymouth Pub fish and chips or whatever, their hot dogs, going over there, in the state. I just don't wanna block them off, because we are the ones that hear about it.
Well, I think that what we could do is if they show their receipt from the restaurant that they ate there, we could make that the same as validating parking.
That's what I would like.
But I can tell you that 90% of their business on the weekends isn't coming from locals, just from
Yeah.
talking to the
And I get
restaurants.
that.
You know, because they have to wait for like an hour to get in. Yeah,
I think that during those 6
Just
weeks,
show
that's
that they-
true, but we wanna make sure that we want the residents to feel.
so we'll just let the restaurants know and CERT know that if they stamp their
And handicap parking for this event will be,
right in the parking lot on the asphalt.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like it always has been.
Okay.
Yeah. There's that little piece when you kind of go through the gate
Yeah.
by Dockside, where it's super close to First Street too. That's where CERT tells them to park.
So I think, sorry.
go ahead.
I think you mentioned your Crystal, I just think making sure that coordination with Crystal, that.
The back of the parking lot.
Right, that there's something coming out, not just, I did check out the website this week and there's, tons and tons of information, but I think people might be, also wanting to go to the city website. And I know there's a link
Yeah,
there, but if we did have, Crystal and Cameron maybe working on occasional,
well, Crystal and us work all the time
yeah,
together.
just to make sure that that's.
So we'll just let the restaurants know that if we'll just let CERT know if they show the receipt.
Sure.
They ate, that they actually got in and got to eat.
We'll just do a little promo from the city, say to our locals, if you're wanting to eat downtown, go through, make sure you grab your receipt on the way out.
Yeah, except they don't
So you
have it.
pay
they'll
for
have
parking.
to pay.
You don't pay for parking, that's
Yeah.
just it, we're not, and you will get a lot of positive feedback from the
Yeah.
businesses that, just because of that,
I
Peter.
think so.
And it will just be, they'll let people know, the businesses will too, once they find out.
We'll just shoot them, when we give them their staff parking, we'll just let them know.
Yes.
Cause they get staff parking passes to park by, behind 2C, so that the staff doesn't park on the street. That's part of the, problems we have with the restaurants right now, is that the staff does not park normally behind 2Cs. They grab a parking spot on the street, and that's been, when we went around and asked how many people park from each of the restaurants, it was like it became super clear. That was,
Just trying to ride, I'm just thinking how we try to ride that line of
yeah,
being private for the event, but being public for our citizens.
yeah.
Yes.
So we can do that, that's easy.
Yep.
And plus, we'll keep track. That'll be a great way to keep
It
track.
would be. It would absolutely would be.
Yeah, because CERT can definitely keep track of that. And then the Christmas ships this year, just on a little offshoot, because March Day for Christmas is on the 11th of December, so a little bit earlier, which is good. And
Are you gonna get the pianist, what was his name?
yeah, Jim,
Jim?
yeah,
Yes. He's very good.
and
He's a crowded vote.
and we're also thinking about doing a caroling or a like a choir song kind of fest on the next weekend. I'm getting feedback from the local pastors and stuff like that, so that we could potentially have that happening on the week of December 18th.
That'd be cool. So maybe use the gazebo area?
Well, I think we'll probably use the courthouse steps because it's so iconic for them to sing there. That would be super cool. And then we'll just set the music up and then they can just, it wouldn't be like it would be like multiple groups coming and each
multiple
singing like
singers,
two
yeah.
songs, that kind of thing.
I think that's a great idea.
And I think that, working with Mohammed and Dave and Buck and everybody that I think, needs to know what's going on. There's a lot of uncertainty because of what's going on, but, we'll be ready to go on the 18th. We welcome guests to town. So I have any other questions?
Would any counselors like to be involved in, we do our old truck, we floated up for the parade. Any counselors like to ride, we've set hay bales up on the back. If anybody wants to ride.
I have a costume.
I'll be driving probably more than likely.
Did you hand that in to Heather yet from American Family Insurance? Okay, yeah.
I'll do it if we get behind chicken wire. That's the only way.
It is the coolest thing if you haven't witnessed it, if we're able to be like years past.
Let's get Curtis on the truck with chicken wire
There you go.
and you.
You attended the first few years in your old truck, right? Right. Yep. Any other questions for Tina? All right, thank you, Tina.
All right.
Happy is actually on the line.
Okay, cool. Kathy, can you hear us?
Waiting for her to unmute.
Okay. Do you have a presentation for Merv, Matt?
I guess
Okay.
now I'm unmuted.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, good. Thank you. I don't do these often enough to understand all the unmuting. Good afternoon. I wanted to let you know that our walk-in freezer and cooler has been installed. Public Works has been awesome in coordinating the subcontractors, and I just can't say enough great things about Roger and his team. There was a defective evaporator that there is being switched out, but otherwise we're just so excited to have that, to be able to store a lot more food and donations that we receive. So that's been a big plus. Couple months ago, we had planned on opening the center to in-person meals, and of course, just like so many other things, that's been postponed. So I don't know when that'll happen, but it's going to be a while, I think. We also had a November fundraiser planned that we've postponed until spring. So just the way things go. For our meal program, I thought you might like to see the history of what the meals have been, the count has been over the last few years. So that's part of what's in your packet. Without the in-person dining, of course, we've been down about 13% for this fiscal year, but we're still putting out a lot of meals every day. About half of them are going to Scappoose. So there's a real need in both towns for the home delivered meals. So we're really glad that we're able to do that. We're delivering 5 days a week now. And so we've ramped up all of our drivers. So we've got enough volunteers driving, and people are really happy with it. So like so many other businesses, we've had challenges with staffing. We've had several employees from both the thrift store and the center leave for other jobs. We have been able to replace the employees at the store, but trying to find a cook has been really difficult. And unlike restaurants, we can't shut down due to lack of staff. So we've just been still working with an assistant cook and volunteers, and community action team is going to come in and help us out. So still searching for a cook. Hopefully that'll be resolved soon. The thrift store is back to its pre-pandemic schedule, and our sales are building back to original strength, so to speak. So there's some good things happening, a few challenges, but otherwise we're plugging away. Anybody have any questions?
I just noticed that a lot of people stepped up to volunteer as far as helping with driving, when you guys had a little bit of a shortage here. It was pretty impressive to see the community step up and help out.
Absolutely. And, we've gone from 3 days a week to 5. So we're having to fill in those Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Scappoose has as well. And people have just been making extraordinary efforts to get their friends to come in and help, or, spreading the word on Facebook. So right now we're doing fine.
So your cook that you have, I mean, are they the ones that are responsible for those 43,000 people?
Yes, the cook and, of course, the volunteers, and we've had off and on, we've had an assistant cook. But a lot of that is volunteers helping to get those meals out. So it's just an amazing feat out of to produce that many meals, package and deliver them with mostly volunteers and one cook and sometimes an assistant cook. So they just have done a great job.
Do you think the wage is competitive enough for, and maybe that's why you're not getting any response for a cook?
We have bumped up the wages more than we ever have. It's still, it's becoming on par with for-profit restaurants, but yeah, that's an issue because some people are leaving for higher wage positions, and the cook was no different. And we just can't match the wage for what she left for. It's just, there's just no way. So that's definitely one of the problems.
Yeah. But it might be one of those things that your board might have to look at and, I mean, it's kind of the main thing that you do over there at the senior center. I mean, I know you guys are open to the public and people come in and play pool and you have events when you're able to open. But that's really the best way you guys serve citizens is through the Meals on Wheels program.
Yes, absolutely.
So other than yourself, that person is almost, in my opinion, the second most important person. Maybe your financial person over there who helps you, unless you do it all.
Well, we definitely, like I said, we definitely have bumped up the pay, and we've also added, we can't really do group insurance, but we have added a medical reimbursement plan up to $200 a month. So that's an extra $2,400 a year if people take advantage of that.
In this coming week, the federal monies for unemployment are gonna cease. Do you see any hope getting people when that stops, or? Because I know right now on the street, all restaurants are having problems getting cooks, even with high pay.
Yes. Yes, you're right. We're going to wait and see what happens with that. Despite everything, we still are trying to emphasize the fact that even though the wage might be a little bit lower, people here don't have to work evenings and weekends unless we have a fundraiser. So that can be a big deal to some folks who are in the restaurant industry. And so we're emphasizing that as kind of almost a perk, that you might not make quite as much, but you can have your evenings and weekends off.
Okay, I don't think there's any other questions, Kathy.
All right, well, thank you so much.
All right, thank you as well for all you do.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, next item on the agenda, review proposed rate increase for waste management drop box services. what are you increasing our,
Yeah.
it says to you, are you increasing our?
The exciting world of construction drop boxes, and as you may know, we have a franchise agreement with Waste Management for construction drop boxes, basically. No, we're not talking about the service to your home and weekly pickups. This is, people doing construction activities that call for a box and it comes out. We rent them at the house, but we have a franchise.
The large green ones,
Yes.
usually,
Yeah.
you're talking about, yeah.
Big ones. Yeah, but, so per that agreement, they get 50% of the annual CPI, and that this year is not to exceed 1.5%, and the CPI change was 3.687%. So they are entitled to a 1.5% rate increase for our franchise agreement, which is already been approved by the councils. So we'll go to the evening meeting. The public always has an opportunity to comment on when a rate changes up or down.
Mhm.
And so they have that opportunity, and then they'll honor our franchise agreement and approve it.
Does the rate that they're allowed, is that gonna match the cost of living? Because the cost of living is doing funny things right now.
So when we did the franchise renewal, we talked about a consumer CPI, consumer price index that tied closer to the garbage and waste haulers industry. There's a specific subset, and that's why you're seeing it, 3.68, because it's more tied to the, dump fees and labor and all those considerations. It's a little bit different than the ones we would normally use for other types of labor and things. And I believe the 50% is related to cost of dump fees. It has kind of one world, and the cost of labor is another world, and those are their two big. It's about half labor, half dump fees.
So the question is, could they get behind with this in the way the cost? Okay, good, okay. So it's, they're not making away with a whole lot of extra money there.
No, it's never perfect. So it's
Okay, well, let's just keep going with the rate increases. Or this is rate increase.
No, this is rate increase.
No, this is our franchise agreement.
Yeah, we've been working with Columbia River People's Utility District for quite some time. We have an expired franchise agreement. And in your workshop in the packet, you'll see a strike through an underlying packet that goes through the agreement. Then the evening meeting, you'll see a clean version that doesn't have the redactions. One of the important things to note with this franchise agreement, how it differs from other franchise agreement, is that the CRPUD is a public entity. So it's by right, they don't necessarily need to have a franchise for with the city of St. Helens to do their business, but they would have to come in and comply with our permit processes. But so B, as a good public partner, has entered into this agreement to concede some of their revenues so that they can expedite their permitting process. And it all works really well. They're one of our biggest franchise electricity utility. It's one of the biggest franchise fees. So I kind of go through the highlights of the change. A lot of it's just more modern language.
Anything really outstanding, or is it just?
It's mostly just modernizing the language. There's some talk about utility relocation. The older franchise is based more off of an agreement that we have with PGD, that was an equity owned company that we have different relationship with. So there's things like indemnity and just process things that are, when it's public, it's a little bit different. So we have similar missions. They're motivated to provide service at the lowest possible cost, which is we are. Some improvements to the sections about auditing and some auditing. Actually, it reduces quite a bit of the language too. It's look like there are a lot of superfluous kinds of language. It's not really necessary. We have a good relationship with PUD that continues into the future, and will be on for tonight. We've been kicking it around for So back and forth between attorneys and things, and I finally got yes here from the staff level.
I like that you simplified it too. You struck a lot of stuff out just to make it simpler.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions for John on that? Hey, Jacob, I know you're probably listening in. We're ready for you. Here come tromping down, grasshopper legs. Kathy, could you maybe call up just to see if he's not watching?
I had a customer unexpected, so. And I told him, well, it may be soon, and I love my fellow employees, they're always washing their backs, they're hauling for you, so.
I said, hey, Jacob, a race for you. Well, here's grasshopper legs coming up there.
I was tempted to jump over this, I wasn't sure what kind of audience we had, I didn't want to.
Yeah, you might have got caught some stuff. That's right.
Okay, so, joint city council and planning commission meeting, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And really the question here, for me, have the planets aligned? And, this is the final planet to see if it's aligned. So planning commission at their last two opportunities for a report to the council has discussed having a joint planning commission city council meeting, as most of you probably recall. And, the last time we talked about this, there was some discussion about having it in September. And it just so happens it's September and the planning commission has a light load this month. And so we're like, oh, wow, it's perfect. It's the right time. They have a light load, so they don't have to worry about a lot of stuff. And so I kind of talked to John about it. And said, well, let's see if the council would want to go to the planning commission meeting for a joint meeting opportunity. We don't want it to be a marathon. Of course, the unfortunate thing is the council meetings the next day, as far as, meeting burnout. So that's, we would like to do it. And obviously, if the council says, heck no, we won't go, then we'll figure something else out. So that's what I mean by the planets aligning, is the council's openness to doing that the second Tuesday in September, which is September 14th.
I got a comment coming from the planning commission about planning. So wasn't there any other options in their plan to give to us? Is that the only option? Is that it?
I think, what I think Jacob is saying, that this isn't what Jacob is just suggesting this as an option. That the planning commission itself did not have a discussion about it and say that's the only option. I think Jacob is simply saying, he noticed his calendar and that there is a light schedule or agenda item, and that it would be optional. I was going, as I said last time, I was going to be reaching out to the planning commission to get some feedback. I did not get, I was going to be getting to that when I saw this item on the agenda. So I figured I'm gonna hold back, see what Jacob had to say. So there has been, no, this is not anyway the planning commission saying,
Not at all.
this is when we want to meet, I think is Jacob.
Okay, so the ball's in our court. Okay?
Yes, so like this,
I'll follow through.
Consider,
the council is objectionable to that, then obviously the planets have not aligned and we'll just have to
And
figure
then
it
I'll-
out elsewhere.
objectionable, isn't there, can't we plan? This is a work session, and this is what the council does, is try to work something out that could be amendable to that meeting. That's one option, right? That's the option that you are suggesting.
Yes.
Okay, do you have any other options?
No, it was because that meeting was light. It was a great opportunity. I talked to my senior management staff. What do you think? Here we are.
I would,
What's the
I would
kind of
like to,
agenda?
just finishing up, I'd like to see us work as a council as an option as well as having the planning commission come to one of our work sessions or one of our evening sessions and tack on 45 minutes for a meeting.
Okay, so that would be your personal preferences.
That would be
Then
my
coming to you.
preference. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. That's just an idea. And this is a work session. It should be kind of a brainstorming kind of thing with the council doing it.
I like where Doug's going with that, except where I wouldn't be one on a council. I'd like to have it at some special thing at the
Yeah.
rec center, somewhere where we can spread out, if need be, and have open dialogue with each other. When we're in meetings, they run so long sometimes that, personalities, for me personally, because I know myself well enough that 3 o'clock, I need that break, you know what I mean? Just fresh, hey, how's it going, refreshments, get together, then start talking just about, we got a growing city. We have that, something in common, with each other, is that, the growth and expectations of, what not to expect and, what do we see, how.
I think the thought was to find a date that might work and then to work on what the agenda might be.
That's correct. And I already have a meeting scheduled with Rachel Berry tomorrow, but that may be a short meeting if this
Will
is.
this be a public meeting when the public will be?
It would have to be. It'd have to be. We got 2 quorums, so double whammy, public meeting, you bet.
Yeah, I'd like to see it,
Kind of an agenda.
I'd like to see it somewhere other than on the planning commission date at the, it doesn't matter to me, in a sense where, but on the evening of a planning commission meeting, I'm not so certain.
That's fine. That was the purpose of having this
The
conversation.
reason I don't like it is because it rolls over the next day to our council.
Yeah, that's what I kind of, that's brutal.
Yeah, it just is.
So
Yeah.
I'll be there.
you will, yeah.
So can you monkey us some dates? And the place actually doesn't matter. It could be in here or it could be at the rec center. It could be somewhere where it's any place is functional. And time,
But separate from, what we've done before was, it was a meeting prior to the regular session,
regular planning commission
the regular
session.
council session. That's the way we've done it before, and because it was programmed into our transportation planning.
That's right, yeah.
So we've done it a couple times over the last
Right.
decade.
So another we're not having a public hearing on the 15th. We already have a forum we've been trying to have.
I would like to see maybe a little bit different style, if I could I would like to see some highlights on, what we've accomplished together. St. Helens Place Apartments, middle school, high school, I mean, these are big ticket items. 239 starting right now, and just the developments, the Emerald Meadows.
That's the one on Pittsburgh, North Vernonia.
Yes. So, that thing is complete. That thing is huge. That was controversial, but it's complete and you, as much as everybody expected and kind of was conflicted and torn over it, it worked itself out. That's one thing we need to understand is we're all on the same team.
I'm pretty sure fire and brimstone did not fall from the sky as a result.
Yeah, I know, but it seemed like it. At the
It was
time.
forecast, yes.
Yes.
The one problem with scheduling before a council meeting, it kind of closes how long the meeting can go. I think the meeting will have a little more length or ability to have length.
So,
So are you here, we looking at doing a meeting on a date that neither that we don't have regular council meeting? Because we don't want to go on the 14th because it is the day before council meeting, so we would be looking at the week in between our council meetings or the week
I
after.
would like to see some type of, even personally me, I think our planning commission does a lot for the little money they get as well. And I would like to see maybe order pizza or something for this event, and make it just, not that we're disregarding any of our other boards and commissions, okay, but planning commission, you know as well as I do, I can go from 7 to midnight sometimes. Right? It has.
it has, yeah.
We ought to start off with an icebreaker or something to eat and then discuss.
Yes, that's when I see it, and that kind of staff kind of help facilitate part of the meeting too. And accomplishments and stuff like that, so there's not a lot of personalities, that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And it could go 2 different ways, and I'd rather see it go.
You don't want to start with ding, ding.
Well, that's why I think you said, Jacob, you're meeting with Rachel, and Rachel was going to be offering some suggestions about how.
Yeah, so I think-
Would have been my suggestion as well, is that Rachel is good at developing that type of process. So let's do.
Okay, well, I think I know where you're at. This is why I wanted to get before you on the matter, so we weren't trying to force it, it was just that opportunity, so now I know where you stand, and we'll.
Yeah, I think if you can find a couple dates, run it past them, and try to pick maybe a couple different dates, and then that one maybe they'd be okay with. And I think we probably are gonna be able to meet one of those 2 dates, I think.
I think by reaching out that way, by the council reaching out, planning commission reaching out, I think that sets a precedent for other commissions and other committees that we possibly could schedule throughout the year. Not to where the calendar is so full that possibly 1 or 2 of those a year annually, Parks Commission, library, just to get to know the members and work with the members that way. I think it'd be a great way to connect to those commissions and to those committees and let everyone know that we are on the same page moving forward.
Cool.
That's the way I see it.
Makes sense.
Some of the agenda concepts we were discussing was to review the council goals, a strategic work plan, and go through the whole process of what's important to the council, kind of share that with the planning commission.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah, so there was that, I wanted to talk about our next batch of housing, not a big old long thing, just very, very general, guidance.
I know the kids like hearing about the Burger King and the Popeyes and, and the Dairy Queen, and then one parent's like, we pick what we want here, and you're like, no, sorry.
Yeah, and then you hate giving those answers, because that's like big city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we like, not to be, but I think that's just kind of.
It totally makes sense.
I think, yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Okay.
I thank you.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Nope.
Yeah,
Don't
Rowan
do
City.
that upstairs.
Rowan City.
We are.
I know it.
They aren't calling you back. So there's no hurry right now.
That's correct. It's good to keep the heart going, Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Jake.
You did all your work, Jacob.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yep. Okay, assignments for voting delegate and alternate for Lake Oregon City Conference. Normally, we ask Doug to do this, and I don't know if he was going to attend.
I'm attending,
Yes.
but I would like to pass the baton to someone else to do that, if anyone would like to.
I'm not going right, okay.
Okay, it's a morning breakfast. Would you like to do it, Patrick?
I'm going.
Good, you're in.
I know, Jessica, were you going? Councilor Chilton?
What were you talking about going to, the Centennial?
Oh, no, the League of Oregon Cities Conference in October.
Oh, yes, I am going to that.
Councilor Chilton is.
Are you going, Mayor?
I am going, yes, and I was just telling, I usually show up like downstairs for some snacks well after their meeting, because it's first thing in the morning, usually for the buddy. Correct?
Yeah, on
Yeah.
Saturday morning, I believe.
Yep.
There's a delegate and an alternate, so.
Yes.
Doesn't make.
Is Jessica going?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Chilton.
Patrick and Jessica do it this time.
Yes, I can do it. I'll do it.
You can do it, I can be the alternate.
Good.
Yes,
Hold your card in the air.
yep. Okay. And if you have any questions, you can talk to Doug, he's been there, done that.
Many times.
Yep. Jessica is our voter, yep, and Patrick are approved it.
Just pick a just pick a breakfast table that looks user friendly, right? Kind of search around and say, oh, I don't know about that group. I kind of like to go with that one. So that's key.
All right,
Okay, that was simple enough.
that doesn't require a formal vote.
No.
You raise the paddle.
Okay, so our next item is strategic action plan updates.
Just a couple of quick items. I did just email you all a copy of the strategic plan Excel file that has what's completed, what's not completed, what will be completed, and what we're gonna push on to the next item. So it's what I showed you at the last meeting, but it's completely filled out with staff's input. So you can have a look at that. Let me know if there's any questions. The survey that's on the city council or the city website right now, that was requested to put some effort into getting the word out about potentially switching to a majority vote versus independent positions for councils. As of right now, it's about 70-30 that people prefer the majority vote. So we have about 65, 70 folks that have voted thus far that have put in on that survey. So it is about 70-30 right now. So
Pretty good percentage, really.
correct, yeah.
75 isn't much of a percentage of the town, though.
No, but if it was a tester.
Yeah.
It would still be a pass situation.
There were the comments in addition. I didn't look, I didn't take it because didn't want to.
When the survey is done, I'm sure Crystal will be happy to share those comments with you.
Okay,
The
but there
majority of the comments were not particular to the actual survey, so.
Oh, well, it still might be interesting to see what they learned.
There are some interesting comments on there, so which
Anyway, okay.
we're happy to show you.
Sure. Okay.
You may not want to see him.
No, it actually is nothing.
I'll,
You know, complaints or anything, there's nothing bad.
yeah, whatever would be interested, yeah.
The only other thing that I wanted to let you know that on tonight's agenda, item number 4 is an agreement with Strategic Networks Group. That is the company that we worked with a little while ago about the broadband network for the city of St. Helens. So we are contracting with them to do an actual needs assessment. It will produce kind of a potential end result of a go, no go for the city council to decide on if you want to move forward. It will also talk about how the public-private partnership could potentially look, because we will need to partner with a private investor in investment, which S&G has, and folks that are interested in the investment, but how that partnership works with the city council, with the new board, all of that kind of plays together of creating our own utility. So it will kind of delve into that to give you an idea of what it may look like if you choose to move forward.
It's interesting and very timely, especially considering what's going on in the federal government with the budgetary issues and where broadband lines up.
Yes.
And it's like at the top. And it's interesting, it's very timely. And another timely thing is bridges and transportation. One of the big reasons we need those things in our master plan. if I forget to give a report on that tonight, I wanted to just kind of put it up there as a reminder. Get our overpass, get our new bridge, get bridges in our master plan so we have no hiccups if monetary funds do come our way.
Absolutely.
Or unless our bridges fail.
Yeah.
That's the other.
Councilman Burton?
How long ago was that when the group did that broadband study?
So
that year,
it's-
I mean, there was one that was done like a year ago.
Yeah, we've actually kind of done two.
Right.
Smaller scale studies.
Sure.
One with a separate company that came back and kind of gave a few options of doing a satellite-based system.
That was 2 years
and-
ago.
Okay, right, and then,
Correct, and then we had S&G come in and kind of do another initial kind of needs assessment. And S&G is tied very closely with potential investors. So they help that potential investor partner up with municipality to create a broadband network. So it kind of ties in very nicely, which is why S&G came in and did that initial study. And then they said, yeah, there's a lot of potential, but we need some more data. We need actual hard facts and find out what the price point needs to be,
Right.
how much the investment's going to cost, what the rate of return is for the investors, and a whole lot of things. So hopefully, or at the end of this study, the city council will have that, yes, let's move forward, or no, it doesn't make sense.
right,
And
and
that'll be on both parts.
And I recall through the part of that city, it was part of that one study was also to try to gauge, or that whole conversation was to gauge the interest of neighboring
Correct. We
communities. And it didn't seem that there was a strong interest
That's correct.
moving ahead.
Correct.
So, so with this, because of the ARPA, I guess, the ARPA funding and the potential, we are thinking that we can possibly forge ahead, even if we do not have the buy-in from the surrounding communities that we would still like to have. But we have more of an opportunity, the availability for possible funds that we could make out on our.
Based on the needs assessment that was most recently done, there is still a scalable option here in St. Helens for it to be manageable without using Columbia City or Scappoose that at this time do not seem interested.
Okay,
It is very easy to bring them in if things change and we need to add them in. The ARPA funds will help fund the complete study. And then once we have that study, what the framework is going to be, what the public-private partnership will look like, then that will help us identify what additional funds that could be available through federal funds or grants to start construction.
Good, yeah, okay.
And the first people that we have come through actually said it looks like you could do it just from a first glance. I remember they put some rough numbers together
Sure,
just on our own.
Yes.
Yes.
But since then, the world's changed quite a bit to speed it up, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing, the new high speed is being pushed around the world.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't that hard before, it was ahead of us, but, I mean, it's changed quite a bit, we do need the new stuff. By the way, could you put on paper that last, the general plan and put it in my box as compared to me looking at the web to find it?
You mean which plan?
You just gave.
Oh, the strategic.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yes, I will print
I
out.
like it in
version
print,
and-
not on transistors.
Yeah, not a problem. I will print one out and put it in your box.
Yeah, we've been looking at broadband for several years now, kind of kicking the tires.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a good fit for our community. And one of the observations when you look around at other communities that have, you know, gone there and made those investments in their communities, I mean, they're really doing well. You look at Independence, you look at Sandy, you look at Ronell's has a, I mean, they're moving ahead, even though it doesn't make economic sense right now. They just hope that it catches up someday.
Well, that'll, all right, then, and that'll, sorry for, but then with the waterfront here, that will, we have that will make more attractive to investors to develop there.
Not only economic sense for the administration and our city staff here, but more so for our public.
That's right.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and the equity pieces, the ability to serve all people.
Students.
It's a huge asset for a company to own your own broadband network.
Exactly.
And that's a great economic development tool as well.
No, we're excited that the ARPA funds became available, that it seems to be raining money for broadband projects, and I mean, this timing seems like it's pretty.
I remember we were kicking the tires on it, and who was the gentleman who showed up? Was his last name Reed? You remember he? Remember him?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that was the first study.
Yes.
that we did. And they came back with about 8 different options and
Do you
how,
remember his name?
we have the study still. Yeah, Quick Start was, I think it was like 1 or 2 different companies that kind of teamed up. and partnered. Quick Start was,
The LLC for sure. Those guys will start to show up down there, I think.
Okay, any other? Okay, city administrator report.
So sticking with the agenda there, on your agenda, in addition to the SNG services agreement, we also have the work order 2 for the project, and I'll go over the highlights of that real quickly, just so you know it's a work order 1's complete. They've on schedule. Actually, our budget is actually in phase 2 is a little less than anticipated here because of some of the permitting numbers that we held in. So a few things are over, a few things are under, but we're wherever we want to be on schedule and budget here. So work order 2 is going to be a phase that gets us to 30% design. So 30% design and work. 30% for the entire Riverwalk, for phase 1 and phase 2. So we will have a complete plan for the park. It'll get us to 100% sign on
Yes,
on park
100%.
improvements as well, and 30% on rest. But some of the, I'm not saying that quick, apologies. My point was being that there's going to be a technical advisory group that milestone is 30% at first, where we're going to have 9 meetings. The first 5 are pretty related to design, detailed decision making, and more towards the end, it's detail and materials. So it starts off design, look, feel, and then nitty gritty towards the end of that. Last meetings 5 through 9. So,
How put together those meetings? We got scheduled for meetings there.
so like every other weekly schedule, we've already have a schedule. It's already laid out in the services agreement. That dates, but
Well,
they're subject to changes.
I think at some point in time, we do need to do just a recap for just the public, because they're starting to ask about it. And
So there is a public involvement task at the 30% mark. That is a calendar date into the fall winter is when that's going to be. So we're looking at about 60 days-ish. You try to make it, ideally it'd be outside, but the weather may not be right. So we'll try to target a date and a place that works appropriately for that. And, some things like the technical investigations a little bit more, but we're doing more work. We're like down by the sheet pile wall, and even though we're not going to build it right now, we have all the people mobilized on site and get that standing along the wall. So a little bit extra work. So that when we do go to design, we'll have better information and costing and things of that nature. The amphitheater was about 133,000 less, which is good. Just because of that design, because we didn't know what the city wanted right there, and they picked a design that was pretty too extraordinary in expense. Includes the design of both the stage structure and the pavilion that's across the pavilion in the park right there. Permitting expenses are down about 20,000. Not having to do that in water work, but there's still some money to help facilitate the permits. And
there's stuff on the pavilion if it doesn't fit quite right. Because I was trying to tell people about it, and pavilion, where's that going? The splash park and the playground there.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's pretty close to the playground.
Yeah, I mean, they're just.
I mean, that's the idea, is that you have a multi-use function where you could either use it for the stage or turn around. Most of the time, you'd probably be looking the other way at the playground or splash pad.
Watching the kids. But it seems like it shrinks that park down just a little bit.
Cozy.
That's already some comments I got on, they like the stage placement, but I was just down at 13 nights, talking to people down there. Telling them about what the Mary Reed is drawn up and how it looks and. So I think, even just, not even just on this though, the whole waterfront as far as OTAC in that combined for citizen outreach. Good time to do that real soon. It's been been about 3 years since we've done any big event,
Yeah, and that will be
you know.
in the fall sometime here coming up and
John,
Yes, seems like there was on their guidelines, there was a big public meeting. Coming, okay.
John, in this presentation, pictures are nice, because they make a 3D model, or is that?
it'll have some, where there's funds in here to develop some really nice renderings.
It's a 3D model people can see. Paper, some people can see, a lot of people.
Well, some of the renderings now are as if you were sitting there and they're looking at it.
There's a problem with you, though. You've been involved in this, you understand what you're looking at. Somebody coming in cold, it's a piece of paper with pictures on it. I've gotten caught a number of times where I've been in the project a number of times. So much is automatic.
Yeah.
I forget to explain some of the small details that came up to that.
Well, I think what you're asking for is more the master developer.
Yeah.
And when they come in to help us out, who that might be. I think that's what I.
Yeah, as I say, we gotta watch out that we get caught with, we get to know what it is. Most people don't.
Yeah, and the purpose of some of the renderings or models or whatever we end up coming up with is, just to use as a tool to,
The talking point.
for the community to see what it's gonna be like to go after funding, pursue the next phases, all of those things to advance the project.
Yeah, but as I say, remember, we've been involved in this, and we gotta talk to people who haven't been.
One of the things that when we finish with phase one, I don't know exactly when that phase one, well, I know when it gets shovel ready is fall of 22. But when that's finished and we move on to phase two, we've got some decisions to make, some very heavy hitting kind of decisions regarding ownership of the property, whether we are going to own it 100%, whether we're going to lease it to builders, how and when do we anticipate making those kinds of decisions?
So when we get to the phase of construction documents, we had talked about going back out to approach the development community to engage their level of interest in the project. And that would precipitate a conversation where, who's going to build what and what cost. And it's not unusual for when a developer comes in to have them build a piece of the road in front of their frontage, right? We do that all the time. If there's a trail, they can build a trail. It comes off the value of the property if they have an expense to build that, but sometimes they can do it at less expense, and that's good, even though it may or may not be on the private property, maybe in the street right away, or maybe in the park, easement or park property, or I don't know if we're clear the park property is right away. I doubt it. It would more likely be just city park.
So my question to you, if we get the master developer, and I'm following what Doug's saying, and more than likely we get more response if we had a general idea of the way that the property should be broken down by a master developer. Then we go ahead and build it out, complete the roads 100%, being in an opportunity zone, we could actually have it marketed, correct? get the highest value, but also knowing that we are in our urban renewals, we're make out big time is that tax money. And like in Forest Grove, when Mike Sykes was over, they chucked our property through their urban renewal for $250,000, even though they knew it was worth more than that. But the return on that was, the community was, the return on the investment. And that's what Independence, modeled theirs off of and showed the public. So that's what we have to prove. That's what we have to prove. Is that right there?
One of the things that, you've heard of Radio City Music Hall in the RCA building, that's built on ground owned by Columbia University. They've got a 1,000-year lease or something. So there's a possibility that we own the ground and everybody owns stuff on top of the ground.
Kind of like the Seaside model. Seaside owns a lot of the ground in the city of Seaside, and motels, hotels, businesses lease the property. So that was kind of part of my question. We had talked about that years ago. What would be the best avenue? But that's all up to discussion in the future, I would imagine.
And I think economists are gonna be the ones that help us out with that because, us holding on to it, the opportunity zone means nothing.
Right.
It means nothing. Maybe with lease option with land, because but a lot of people are sketchy on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And we've spent several hours going through the timing and sort of.
Yes, he's listening, Greg, he's just listening. Yeah.
On, project budget, actually the how we build the streets. Whether, we go in and build the streets today, and where do we put the crossings in? The road, where the
Where the buildings are gonna end.
We have, goals of having view corridors
Egress,
through the
egress.
site, those could move 50 feet one way or the other. Do we just go in and pave half the street? Do we pave all of the street, come back and tear some of it out? A lot of things to talk about.
What are the state rules about what we can do, or are they free to this?
No, state as far as tied to funding here.
No, you're not allowed to sell more than 3 square feet of ground unless you do this, that type of rule, land use and so on.
Well, biggest constraint to developers will be whether or not it's a prevailing wage project. But whether not the horizontal piece, but the vertical piece, whether that ends up being that prevailing wage. So they're gonna try to do projects that more than likely don't meet that because it's such a cost burden on their projects. Phase 2 is very much, we would like to go out to developers to see if there's that interest, if somebody has a master plan and knows what they want to do, versus the city just putting this infrastructure that looks nice, and then that sets the framework for how it's going to be in the future. And, there are big changes and things get torn out and moved around.
When you're talking about height, that's interesting to me because I recall back in the 70s when I think it's the first interstate building or bank building down in Portland, there was a height restriction of like 40 stories or 30 stories or whatever. And so what they did was the bank owned 2 lots. So they said, well, we want to go up 65 stories in this one and only 5 in this. Can you do the combination of the 2 so it equals out? And the city council at that time, it made sense to do that. But it was controversial for some of the people who lived on the hill because it blocked the view of Mount Hood and it did this and it did that. But since then, in larger cities like that, they do take blocks and they don't take just one building. This is that they draw a circle around the area and say, okay, the combination of the height of everything, it will be, what we have down there is 4 stories or 5 stories, I believe. 50 feet?
55.
55.
Yeah, so we have that as a height restriction. And
But we held it also where it was flexible, remember?
we're flexible, so if exactly. so that if there is something that does come in and we hold a public hearing and the council makes a decision that it's a good move to do those things, I think that's a good flexibility for future councils to work through. Yeah. So, yeah, we were wise, I think, to have that discussion at that time. It's on record and it was all part of the vote.
Yeah, we set it outright height and elevation of 50 feet, but then, or 55 feet. But that was about the height of the tower. I think something like that, but
That was the height of the existing roof.
oh, the roof restaurant.
53 was, or 54 is here.
But more than that, with this concepts of floor area ratio and things you're talking about there, averaging and getting more height for less floor area in exchange for height, are all really good options, and those are available through a development disposition agreement.
As I recall, the planning commission was huge in that assessment of how they weighed in on that. And then it was appealed and it came into this area. But I do recall the chairman of the planning commission was at that time adverse to that decision, thinking that there should be no height restrictions down there if you want the place developed. And I kind of think he was in the developer's shoe steps about what it would cost and how they could be more cost effective and how it could become a reality of really making a development in that place. But there's always give and take.
Yeah, that conversation was not about, we didn't propose a height restriction, but would be limited by the development constraints as far as parking and things of that nature, which that got way out of control.
Way out of control. Because the chairperson at the time, if you remember, said, I think there should be none. So he struck fear in the upper peoples, and then all of a sudden they have posters of high rise.
South Waterfront, 300 home foot.
Call channel 2. Call channel 2. Remember we have news cameras right here. Yep, I remember that. So, but even the conversation amongst us is pretty in depth, and you can see right here. And just moving forward, I know that independence, the model they used, when did they start informing and educating their council on the ROI and have somebody at least come in and give hypotheticals to show that model and how it works? Because I think that's what we as a council need, not in our meeting here either, in a meeting specifically on the waterfront and Riverwalk.
Yeah, I think when we get to the point of talking to developers and having real tangible kinds of proposals, that's the time to evaluate them.
Well, we need to have that prior to too, because we have to answer to the public too. And, just to say, well, I don't know, it's not okay. We need to be able to say, no, it's a return on the investment. Here's how it works. And we've been actually having meetings on it. I think that'd be a great idea.
Sooner.
Yep.
What the group working on it, the streets committee and the crossover with the staff and the Riverwalk, and does feel good about is the alignment. Everybody seems to be in agreement about the alignment, where the utilities are going to main core utilities are going to go, and all of the west side improvements, all of the ones against the bluff. So you can easily build the bluff, all the street improvements on that side of the street, and have that half street maybe better, and maybe just a curb on the east side right there to keep people from coming off the property. That's one option slash. Yeah, that's one option to kind of
Make them pay for their own sidewalks.
minimize the public investment.
Their own sidewalks and their own sewer connects and all that.
Yeah. Some of those sidewalks would come out because you'd have curb cuts,
Yep,
driveways.
yep.
We've done some other things like reducing the public utility easements, which would have effectively set the buildings back further than they need. But, yeah, I think we're, I think when we get to the point of talking to developers and having real tangible kinds of proposals, that's the time to evaluate them. Well, we need to have that prior to too, because we have to answer to the public too. in an urban setting might be. So that saves 8 feet around all lot. You'll have detail stuff that makes a big difference.
So it's coming along. Is what I
Yeah,
heard you
there's
say.
a lot of talk and it's good.
When we're talking about 5G, is it in this plan, have we put a corridor for communication equipment?
There will be line pipes in there. Yeah.
Because once upon a time, one telephone line for the neighborhood was great, but it's no longer that day. Between fiber optics and everything else.
And the PUD will help us out with some of a little small fractions where they can, you know, there's a grant we could actually get real easily right now. It's not much, it's only $5,000, but it puts a little bit of pipe, free pipe in the ground, you know? So,
Yeah, fiber ready, electrical vehicles ready.
yeah,
Yeah, it'll be planned for the future. So,
And pipe
as far as we can see anyway. So.
yeah, this far. Sorry to interrupt that, but you know, we're just like, this is.
No, it's a huge
exciting
project.
stuff. Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
And it's been working on a long time and it's really exciting and we want to get it right and not need to be replaced. It doesn't look good either, so. So switching, are we done with that? The public safety facility yesterday, Councilor Chilton, myself, Matt Brown, Matt Smith, Brian Green, Chief Greenway, all met and talked about the proposals for design and engineering services. We've got three proposals from 3 well-qualified firms. Everybody took the proposals, read them, scored them, and then we had a meeting yesterday to debrief and talk about the pros and cons of what they liked and what they didn't like. And McKinsey, sure. Our officer in the rose to the top, and the committee was supportive of moving them forward. We had some interview processes built in to see if we wanted to bring all 3 in and do an interview phase, but you know their depth and closeness to the project and understanding and really just following the criteria of the RFP instructions. The other people just missed some big strokes in there. All of they're great firms, but we're recommending that rather than do that interview, having McKinsey come to the next council meeting and give their presentation to the city council, so you can talk about that, and we'll get a personal services agreement in order.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah. We're good. Yeah, there's so many other things. There's this, Matt tossed me a leak adjustment here that exceeds their administrative authority for one of our utility customers that has the standard adjustment would have been 506. It was a leak on just past the meter on the thing, and it leaked a lot, about $641.52 worth. You're asking for a full adjustment rather than just the standard adjustment. It's a standard staff adjustment.
Yeah, the standard staff adjustment would have been a little over $500. And so it's a legitimate request. The person got it fixed. They followed all the rules. So we would like to request that the city council approve the full.
Let's put it on for tonight.
Senior fixed income. Yeah.
10% of what we allow or even less.
Any discussion on it now, so we just didn't go through later. So then we're all more able to finish it later.
That's it.
Okay.
I'm hearing.
We got plenty of time.
Got plenty of time. Just a shout out to Sharon DeRoe, our engineering project manager, that she's been selected to a pretty great group. It's called the Northwest Women's Leadership Academy. It's a small group, and they have a year's course of leadership training.
Nice.
That's fantastic. Good job on that.
We have anything for executive session?
We have some real property.
Okay, so I will, we'll be going to executive session ORS 1926602E, real property, MH consulting with counsel after the adjourn here.